Welcome to Unleash Your Inspired Voice, the podcast that focuses on developing a more conscious-minded, heart-centered approach to life and business. And now here to introduce today's special guest is the host of Unleash Your Inspired Voice, author, content strategist, and Unity Consciousness activist, Peter Clark Nelson.
Hey, what's going on, beautiful souls? My name is Peter Clark Nelson, the host for Unleash Your Inspired Voice. My guest for today's show is the divinely gifted Nalinee Diosara. Nalinee is the globally renowned scribe of light language and founder of Light Language Art and Energy Services, where she offers light language art in the form of original paintings, prints, and products, including the Torch of Ascension Oracle card deck. She also delivers life-altering energy services in private one-to-one sessions. During this galactivating and soul-empowering episode, Nalinee and I will be diving deep into the healing powers of the ancient technology of light language and the impact it is having on our world at this time. The inspiring topics we address in this episode range from techniques for healing your inner child, following your guidance to share your spiritual gifts with the world, and how to integrate the higher vibrational feminine energies that are coming into our world. There are also hugely activating moments during the episode where Nalinee brings forth channeled messages from the Lyran Council, along with several powerful, heartfelt light language transmissions. And I also invite everyone who is listening or watching this episode to stay with us after the interview concludes. There is a recent Ancestors Heart Light Language song and transmission video that Nalinee recorded that we will be playing. This is one of the most profound interviews I've ever personally done, and you will soon understand why. With that said, let's meet Nalinee and officially start this powerful and activating episode. Hey, what's going on, beautiful souls? This is Peter Clark Nelson, and I want to welcome you to a new episode of the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. This is the show that teaches you how to joyously scale your consciousness while profitably scaling a heart-centered business. And as you heard in the introduction, my guest today is Nalinee. Nalinee, thank you for being a part of the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And again, for those of you who heard the introduction, you know that Nalinee absolutely personifies what this podcast is all about and the amazing divinely gifted work that you do, Nalinee, through all of the different facets as a scribe, as an artist, a painter, and as a conduit for some of the most beautiful high vibrational energies and frequencies that I've ever personally encountered in this lifetime. And it is just such an honor to have you on here. I've been looking forward to this even before you and I set the date to have this interview, because for those who have followed the podcast, I originally launched the podcast last year, and Nalinee was one of the individuals that was on a list of people that I wanted to reach out to. And I put it on hiatus, came back this year, and thankfully we were able to connect, and here you are. So we're going to get started here with just your journey, because there's so many different facets to the sacred work you do. And for anybody who's seen any of my videos, watch the podcast, these two prints that you see behind me, Thoth, or Tahuti as some people know of him, is over my right shoulder. And there's a lot of energy. We were just talking about a lot of energy of his divine feminine counterpart, Seshet. They are well, if you know the Neteru or any of the mythical stories of ancient Egypt and also Atlantis, you definitely have heard of Seshet and Thoth. They are the divine feminine and divine masculine creatrix and creator of wisdom, of language, of words. And over my left shoulder is a Lyran elder of the High Council of the Lyrans. And Nalinee is very well known all over the world for channeling the feline energies, particularly from Lyra. And we're going to talk a lot about this. So we're going to get into the energies of both of these prints behind me, but also we're going to get into all of the other artwork that you do, your oracle decks. And there's so much here that you have brought to our world. And you're so welcome. And for people who are just getting introduced to you in this podcast, I just have to say to everybody who's listening and watching, just sit down, take a deep breath, and get ready, because we're going to go on quite a journey, and you'll likely be experiencing some light language. You will also be introduced to some videos that Nalinee has done. We're going to weave them into the actual episode. So let's look at your journey. And I wanted to ask you, so light language is something that has been around since the beginning. It was originally the way humans interacted, connected, and communicated. And yet it would seem, and I know from my personal experience, it just sort of came out of nowhere. Like about 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago, all of a sudden, light language appeared. And yet the moment I first heard it, it resonated. I felt it was like home. So for you, you were one of the first people that started putting videos out there for the world to remember light language and to become activated from these sacred transmissions. So how did that all happen for you?
I have other people to thank for as well that paved the ways. There are the people on YouTube that I listen. Not many, because I'm very selective to the resonance. And there are very few that I was, like what you said, when you listen to it, you're just like, oh my God, that's something deep within and something expanding as well. So it wasn't too long after I started to meditate. And throughout my childhood, I always paint. I was really into portraits. But then I had this question within me. I'm here to do more than painting portraits. So I started to meditate, and then light language came. And I first connected through light language, through other people on social media, other people on YouTube. And that was like the first level of activation. I've never been through any workshop, but crystals, especially this one, Nirvana quartz, really bring in that deeper activation of first few symbols, first few syllables of light language. And for those of you who are starting to receive this intuitive tone, you can start what I did to write down like karaoke syllables, and then you sound it out. And the more you work with it, it just becomes so natural. It's like, I feel like singing, and you just let it out and you feel this vibration of space being created. You feel this love. You feel whatever that you are releasing, you're transmitting, you're communicating with the subtle realms through your voice, through writing. And there's a lot of people out there now who painting light language, who doing digital work, who doing sound, and it's expanding.
Yeah, it is amazing how quickly it has been impacting people all over the world. I mean, I've got friends who are now doing light language paintings and doing light language transmissions. And, it's, to me, it's such it really epitomizes the essence of awakening, because it's awakening those dormant light codes that are within all of us. So we're all capable and designed to speak light language or to write in it. It's just, it may be a little bit more, it may be easier for some people than others. But in your particular case, so when it came to infusing the light language into your artwork, when did that actually start merging? Because you were saying you were doing portraits at one point, and now all of a sudden, not only are you doing prints like the ones I have in my office, but this is just scratching the surface. You've got a lot of pieces that you do, and you also do customized commissions as well.
Yeah. I think it's something that we all shared. We share this inner craving to break beyond the system, to break beyond the linear thinking, or even the linear linguistic system that our language being used, our voice being used. And like you said in the beginning, light language is not something new, it's something that existed within humanity for so long. It's something that our voice, the word that we use, has power, has energy. And light language is so important in the process of awakening or ascension in this moment of time, because it's break people beyond that box, beyond that linear paradigm, into multi-dimensional space. I first transitioned from painting portrait of people into painting beings. Lyra, the white feline lady, was the very first one. And then when I began to become more confident and comfortable in painting scripts, I just let it all out. And it's always that healing with the doubts within, healing with the judgment within. And throughout the process, I do receive comments of people questioning, people doubting in this, people labeling it as witchcraft, as this, and you got to kind of realize that, hey, I'm doing this, and I know deeply in my soul that I'm doing this not because it heals me, but it's doing something in the collective that is beyond the mind. And that is the creative process of the heart, isn't it? We're just following the heart, we're just letting everything flow, and the focus engage with the creative process and imagination, and it just flows.
I love that. I'm so glad you brought up the point about just the inner judgment and how it's reflected back to us from the outer world. You know, when we are spiritually driven, heart-centered entrepreneurs, and we're doing something that in today's world is seen as groundbreaking or cutting edge, but as we've already briefly talked about, light language is a very ancient technology. And it's a technology that didn't necessarily originate in the sphere of the world that we're in. It's in the multidimensional universe. And so it's just a way of different cultures communicating. And the interesting thing about light language that I would suggest to anybody who is very interested in this, aside from doing your own research on it, is once you listen to what Nalinee and how her transmissions come through, and you are guided to others. And as you pointed out, Nalinee, I'm so glad you said this, not everybody's light language is going to be everyone's cup of tea. So there's going to be different frequencies and energies and resonance. But in saying this, what I've noticed, and several other people have reflected this back to me, you start listening to other languages around the world, and you actually start to realize that some of the origins, if not the origins, of all of the different languages around the world are coming from light language.
It's sound.
It's the foundation of it.
Yeah, we made out of sound. Sound is a form of frequency that bridge physical reality with other dimensions. And it's sound. And Hermes mentioned it in a book called Hermetica, saying that the ancient language of Egypt, the true language of ancient Egypt, contains power. And I've had experience in one of my meditation going back in as a feline, and we didn't need to communicate through our voice. It's a telepathic communication, but we use our voice for the sacredcy of its vibration. And I feel that this is a part of empowerment that we are flowing into. We're becoming more aware of how we speak to ourselves. We're becoming aware of how we're speaking to one another. Because we feel it. Voice, sound, and words manifest. And it shapes our reality. Right?
It's absolutely. As Thoth and Sachet are known to have helped create that and bringing that sound and being able to weave that into words. And words have such power. And the definitions that we put into the words carry spells. The question is, what kind of a spell are we weaving, both within ourselves and outwardly? So this takes us into an area that I know I wanted to talk with you about, because prior to us doing this episode, this interview, you did a beautiful transmission about inner child work and really the heart and the bridge that has in bringing our inner child into a place and a space of confidence and safety and empowerment and just the potent energy that our inner child brings. Before we jump into that, though, because this, in terms of speaking of bridges, this goes back to something that I wanted to ask you about, because you were talking about when you were first putting out these prints and doing light language, that some people were coming, were attacking it and saying, well, it's witchcraft, or it's this, or it's that. And I know a lot of people in the spiritual community who are heart-centered with their businesses. That is a major obstacle that people face in terms of being seen, being heard, and being felt. And that goes back to inner child wounding. So how did you work through?
I have to thank those people who came into my life that at time we end the relationship in conflicts. At time we project our fears without being mindful. Those situations really brought me back into the realization that there are seeds within me which is filled with fear of being judged, fear of being wrong. And all of this is shared within the collective consciousness. And if each of us, before we project, take a deep breath and just go within and connect to that anger, connect to that frustration, connect to that state of being scared. And you will see different personality coming up as inner children within us. And they all need loved. They all need reassurance. They all needing us just to say, hey, I'm here and we are new in any given moment. What you've been taught isn't valid anymore. And we know this. Let us hold hands. Let us merge together. And I feel that those people who I felt that of being judged by them, I kind of manifested that out of fear of being judgment. That's me taking responsibility. That's me having that aha moment that, hey, that's not just them, it's me also. That playing part in this attraction and manifesting certain situation for me to truly see that, okay, there are things within me, within the shadow, that's still playing the role, that needing more love and needing nurturing. It's that is the process of rebirth, isn't it? It's not about us dying and becoming a total new person on the outer skin, but it's us going within and rebirthing what is contains so much love, what contains so much potential that we've forgotten, that we been distracted to look in the external world for validation, for love. And now we knowing that all of this desire for validation, desire for strength is all within us.
And that's just as you said, I mean, it's the death of what we know of as the outer world, but not in the way in which we've been conditioned to believe it to be, the whole fire and brimstone sort of thing, it's like, oh, it's got to be burnt to the ground to rebuild. Not necessarily. It's all within. And as each of us allow more of our higher self to come into our physical form, the more room we allow our inner child to come out and play. It's like just taking the reins off, right? It's like, okay, let's go run, let's go have fun. And that's part of what I've seen in so many beautiful souls that bring their gifts into the world and share them. Yes, we all go through that purging process of looking inward and seeing where that inner critic or negative interject is sort of moving around. It's like a jackrabbit. It's like, it shape shifts into different people's voices. And yet at the end of the day, it is always our own voice. And I love how you frame that by saying that it was an aha moment for you to look at and go, oh, okay, there's a little bit more of a shadow here that I need to take responsibility for. And that's huge. And it shows up in your work. Like the essence of your joy, I can feel it in the energies of these prints. I can feel it in the transmissions that you're bringing through. So speaking of which, let's go back to the video that you did just today. And when we were doing this video, so for those of you who are joining us on a live stream, which is on August 22nd. We actually were recording this video a few weeks before that, and there was this amazing transmission that you brought through, and you talked about the inner child. And that is just a perfect place for us to jumpstart into the next topics of discussion here, because it's your inner child that is, as much as anything or anyone, playing a role in the beautiful work that you're sharing with the world.
It is, because like we spoke about how intense July was. Well, we're still in July, but energy shifted now into Leo. It was so intense with the eclipse season. It really brings us inward, and the feminine energy that we are integrating always going to invite us inwards, and we go deeply inwards. And when we review and reflect upon the current adulthood where we at, all of this sense of self, all of this mind identification and conditioning, we're going in and we're tearing it apart, we're peeling it gently. And when we get into that heart center, beyond the judgment, beyond the desire of making sense, into that surrender, into the inner silence, we have this spark to create. We have this spark to communicate. And within this spark for us to create and communicate and share comes in this rebirth of inner child, or the sun consciousness, that illumination of light. And joy is such an important vehicle, because it keeps us going, it keeps us away, it transforms sorrow into gratitude. It transforms resistance into, hey, this is an adventure, this is just a ride, sure. So let us take a moment to take a deep breath and place our hands on our heart. And the inner child holds the key of the union of the masculine and feminine principle within us. The inner child is the third energy. The inner child holds the Trinity energy that holds the key of transcending and grounding all of our states of being, all of our experiences. And without a doubt, in this moment of time, what we need the most is that sweetness, that nectar of life, of joy. And the inner child will tell us to be the mother and the father to our own self. The inner child will remind us to take responsibility of our inner realms, and then how we can recreate, how we can reconnect with the outer world in balance. Because all the pain and suffering within the world in this moment of time is the disconnection of the inner child within. It's the suppression, it's the distraction from the childlike nature, that innocent, that powerful curiosity. heart-to-heart connection as we share as one. Take a second to go in and be that mother and father to our own inner child. The light within the heart. Allow the heart to smile and feel that joy, feel that smile. And as we breathe, transmit that joy 360-degree outwards to all sentient beings, regardless of differences. Ami Aho. Sending everyone big hugs.
How do we even follow that? That's just incredible. I mean,
just float.
Thank you for answering the calling to bring that through. I figured that at some point during this exchange of energy that you would be bringing that through, and I just because of the nature of the amazing work that you do. So for those of you who are listening, and if you're joining us on a live stream or you're watching this as a replay, that's just scratching the surface of the depth of the high vibrational transmissions that Nalinee is bringing into the world and sharing with individuals in private one-to-one sessions. Obviously, you can see with these prints behind me, she's channeling that into light language and beautiful imagery of just beings from our multidimensional universe that we are all connected with. We're all sisters and brothers in this beautiful journey of life. And as you said, it's like a wave. Sometimes it gets a little dicey here and there. And, we're in a transitional period right now for a lot of people. We're always going through different timelines and collapsing old timelines. And for those of us who have, raised our hand and accepted the calling of service at this particular moment in the experience of being a human, we are given these opportunities to dive deep into the Pandora's box of our inner essence and presence, to reconnect with that Trinity. And as you were talking about it, our inner child who holds the keys to our divinity. And it's just it's being a conscious parent to our inner child. It's allowing him or her to come out and to express themselves in a way that we were not allowed to do, or at the very least, we were given only brief opportunities to. And even in those brief opportunities, that's still a suppression. That's still oppressing our very essence of who we are on a divine level. So again, I just want to say thank you for bringing forth that light language transmission. That was just beautiful. In terms of, as you were saying about the tumultuous journey for many people during the month of July, that was gnarly. It was an interesting experience for all of us, and we got through it. And
it is. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
It is. I feel that it's become clearer now that the eclipse really offer another side of the light, which is the dark. And the dark and the light doesn't really have good or bad connotation. That's just what the human mind put into it. And throughout the journey of going within, and for us continue to going inwards, we learn to practice the detachment from conditioning. Because if we still hold on to certain condition, that is going to distract us from core of compassion consciousness, from the core of self-love. Because like everyone said, unconditional love, no condition. And we just got to continue to maintain balance between the connection of the inner world and the outer world. I feel that for me, I have always been leaning towards a hermit kind of person. I feel the more calling to come out more and more and more in Bangkok and also still online. But according to my observation is that for those who have been leaning towards externalizing, they're really going to come inwards because it's the imbalance. If you continue to give power of your belief system according to what's out there, there's going to be disharmony, you're going to find obstacle, there will be a lot of resistance, there will be a lot of challenges. But when you learn to drop what is right and what is wrong, the fight between right and wrong, drop it for 1 second and come back within and go into those triggers, go into those anger and talk to it, converse with it, and understand the root and the cause and the reason of why they are there. You then birthing out the new seed, you then birthing out the inner child, and you then will find ways of inspiring others to change, to shift. And like you said, it's not about burning the structure and everything crumbling down. The structure that have long been paved within earth energy is valid for us to use, but it is that integration with the inner child and higher self. And I feel that in the future, we will see this in the political movement. We will see this in educational system, in medical institution. We will. And I'm holding that space.
You and me both, and many, many others. And
Yeah.
thank you for adding that in about just the integration and the communication with not only our inner child, but communication with, well, obviously the inner child and the wounding, and not avoiding some of those difficult moments as many people were moving through in July. And quite frankly, these energies, they're not here to harm us. They're not here to quote unquote destroy us, unless you want to look at it from the perspective of we are destroying old programs, but not in a violent, destructive way. We're actually destroying them through love, because that's the only way in which they can be transmuted. So that compassion, as you said, that compassion consciousness. And this past month has been such a huge upheaval, which allows us to actually integrate and assimilate with more of the higher frequencies that our inner child is here to share with us, and our higher self. So let's talk a little bit about this, because we're now, by the time the world is going to be able to see this interview and feel the energies, it's going to be in August. And you mentioned earlier, we've just entered into the Leo energy, which is the feline energy in many ways. So how would you interpret this for people who are looking to make sense of this journey? Because you work with a lot of, you work with the feline energies, galactically speaking. And of course, with the Lyran High Council, the Lyran culture. So how do you interpret these energies and express them to those who can make sense of them?
It's the courageous heart, it's the lion heart. That's the representation of feline and lions. And if we go beyond lions, if we looked into panther-like, jaguar-like, or cat-like, it's a very intuitive being. And they focus on their path. They are not distracted. They have this balance between patience and act upon courage. And within this August that many people are looking forward to, the Lion's Gate, the 8th and 8th energy, is going to bring in the connection of the heart as a center that connects below and above and below. And it's going to be the calling for each of us to be fully in each moment. The 0 point, the neutrality, the centering point, the knowing that experiencing of time and space is very fluid. The knowing that universe and Gaia herself reset themselves every new breath in every new day. So allow this knowing to be a tool for us to rebuild, to fully feel the fresh new breath. And we are here as empowered beings, having choice to vibrate in any frequency, having choice to transmute fear into love, having choice within that heart intelligence of reconciling plurality and transcending duality. It's the connection of the heart, which sometimes will bring up the fear that's still going on within the root. And within this connection of the heart is going to anchor the higher energy centers above the crown, flowing down deeper and deeper. And for those who practice of going beyond the judgment of the mind, you will get into the gear, into the natural flow of this spontaneous urges, this intuitive knowing that the heart and the higher self has. The mind will follow. The memory, the belief system will follow to align with this heart and higher self connection. And all we have to do is take action accordingly. All we have to do is to trust and remove ourselves from expectation of the outcome. All we have to do is continue to take one step at a time and be in the moment. So we would like to invite you to tune in to your breath again. And from the heart, anchoring the flow of the sun, the soul, the source above. Down and down into the root, into your feet, into the connection with the physical world. For you are a pillar of light. This is innate. This is built within you. There's no need to force anything to happen. All you have to do is be mindful of this space of yours and continue to act upon the guidance of the heart. And also in this moment of time, we, the Lion Council, would like to remind you to be gentle on yourself and to take it slow. Because there's so much activation going on beyond the mind can understand. Within your DNA, within your frequency, within your aura, within your energetic field, within Gaia, within collective consciousness, within crystalline grid, within Milky Way galaxy and Andromedan galaxy. So much that is going on that we ask you to simply slow down. Slow down. And put your worries aside. You are on time. You are on the path. For the ascension process is a natural process. Kimi no wa. Thank you.
All I can say is thank you for that. That was divinely timed for me in this very moment, that message. And I'm sure that for every beautiful soul that is guided to this particular episode, that transmission and those beautiful, eloquent words of guidance and the interpretations of what the feline and the lion, the male and female divine energies, what that represents in our balance and the courage, that's going to be divinely timed for everyone who comes across this episode. So whether you're watching this live, you're listening to this as an MP3, watching the video on a replay, that is a timeless message that is also very timely. So you don't necessarily have to be in the month of August of 2019 to feel and tap into and apply the wisdom and the energy that's coming through. It's just that there are specific times throughout the course of every year, just as the seasons change, there are portals, there are gateways that are activated, and they've been put in place long before this particular incarnation that we're all experiencing one another in right now. And when we get to those particular moments in our calendar year, they represent massive opportunities to take quantum level leaps in our consciousness, to be more fully embodied within our divine essence and presence. And I always liken these particular times of the year, like the Lion's Gate that's coming up, is if you are even familiar with surfing, you don't have to be a surfer to get this, but there are times where the waves are not that big, but those who surf passionately or professionally, they know where to go on the planet where there's particular swells. They know how to be patient. They know how to feel and read into the energy of Gaia and the water, and they prepare themselves for when those massive waves come. So when they show up, they're ready to ride that wave. And that's been part of a theme I'm picking up with this episode with you, and the ebbs and flows of these energies and riding them. And so for those of you who are very familiar with the Lion's Gate, you obviously have already gone through it as you are watching and feeling into the energies here. But those energies don't dissipate after August 8th. They are with us. They carry us into new timelines. Yeah. And when those opportunities show up, and I want to talk a little bit about your creations, because you have given birth to such powerful, beautiful, divine works of art in many different forms. When these activations come through, and I'm saying this for people who are listening and watching this, when we have these opportunities to go in and commune with our inner child, we're also communing with the voice of our creations, which are coming through us and asking to be birthed and shared with the world. So in your particular case, Nalinee, when you were coming through the light language and working with the artwork, you also had other forms by which they were taking shape. So there's the oracle deck. And then there's other products that the light language and the prints actually find their way onto. So let's talk just a little bit about the oracle deck itself.
I was inspired by another sister called Alessandra, and she had her oracle deck out 3 years ago, I believe. And it was just that excitement of, oh my God, I want to do it too. So I started to collect my artwork, including Michael, my partner, as well. So it's like a little collaboration. And I was writing the deck before my journey in the Amazon. And in the Amazon, I took my laptop and I wrote, I still working on the draft. And after the full journey with a Maison in medicine, everything just has to be done. My guides and then my inner knowing said, this has to be done. This has to be done. So I didn't go through any publisher. And within the deck, it doesn't come with physical guidebook. It's digital guidebook. the perk is that, we're saving papers, everything is in digital. And there might be some grammar mistake, minor spelling mistakes out there, but it's written from the heart. And I always encourage, just as when you're working with cards or any divine tool out there, tune into your imagination, tune into your intuition, because they serve as grounding tools. They serve as an anchoring of the message. And this is all printed on demand and shipped worldwide. And it has been a joy to be able to provide that. And the second deck will be coming out perhaps in a few years' time. I'm still painting. Yeah, so.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is like a gate for people to connect with beings and consciousness that have come through me, through the artwork. And my intention was to anchor the awareness out there that light language doesn't really need to be defined. Light language is something that is constantly expanding our consciousness. Interpretation serves, I agree, but when you define light language, be mindful that there's other facets out there as well, that what light language serves. So it is a full creative flow of light language. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you brought that up, because there's so many different forms that light language shows up. I mean, there are some through lines and there's some common themes, so however somebody is guided to write light language, if you are familiar with the technology, even by just a surface level identification of it, you'll see like, oh, that's light language. But when it gets communicated through the voice, the sound, it's like any creation, there is an energetic signature that is distinct to the soul that's bringing it forth.
Yes. Yeah, and it's all boiled down to what you resonate to. That's it. And you have to listen to that. You have to cultivate the healthy balance between discerning. There's no right or wrong, but just know that everyone vibrates on different frequency, and perhaps something is not going to resonate to your path, and you just leave that and focus on what resonates for you.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it too. And that's the thing with any of us that have a spiritually driven business or a sacred movement. The idea of trying to be all things to all people, that's part of the old world. That's the people pleasing program, and that's not going to serve your creations or serve the people that are drawn to you. Because if you try to be all things to all people, then you are being called in so many different directions. You're allowing yourself to give your power away to all of the opinions that may come in about the sacred work you do.
Yes. And know that we are unique for a reason. Not everyone's supposed to be doing the same thing. That's the reason why we are different, so that we can reach different angles, different perception, different frequency, and blend it into all one. And thank you for bringing up the old template, because not only in political or government structure, but within spiritual community, many things are shifting too. We are still transforming and healing the post-Atlantis energy, the manipulation, the corruption, the fear base within spiritual community. And this is all inner work. And like you said, is what it's all about, focusing on who you are, allow your authentic self to shine, and you will bring in those who resonate to you. And it's save your energy, because if you're trying to be everything for everyone at the same time, it is pretty draining.
It is. I can speak from personal experience.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah. It's exhausting. It's like it's trying to do like a triathlon, 3 of them at a time. One, just swimming, running, that's grueling enough. Trying to do all that stuff at once, forget about it. That's it's gonna dilute your joy, which you talked about earlier. It's just so important. It's such an essence to our inner connection and communion with our inner child, and how we were able to bring not only our gifts out to the world, but to enjoy the process of giving birth to these creations, to cultivating a sacred space for them to be seen, heard, and felt. And this goes back to, again, one of the challenges that so many people in both the old paradigm and, of course, in the spiritual communities, as we go deeper and further into the golden age of unity consciousness, we are not only just redefining and reframing all of the old ways of doing and loving and creating, one of which is crucial, is redefining and reframing how we perceive success. Yes. Success in the old paradigm was all about blood, sweat, and tears. Whereas success in the new paradigm of unity consciousness, where we are all supporting and celebrating one another, we don't have to always resonate with everything. But let's be realistic here. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of courage. As Cedar Rose, who's been a guest on the podcast before, and she talks about the courage of creativity. It takes a lot of courage to step out, to be seen, heard, and felt because of the old programming that we have been transmuting. And so future generations may not have to go, I would like to think they don't go through what we went through. And that's where I love about the work you're doing is you're not only giving yourself an opportunity to be seen, heard, and felt in your most authentic and beautiful essence and presence, and your artwork is just an expression of that, but you're also shining a light, or I should say illuminating the pathway for future souls who are coming into the planet and who haven't even been here yet. They're coming into this planet to take things to an entirely new level that we can't even imagine. And so by seeing what individuals such as yourself, what you're doing, that gives permission to people, not only in this timeline, but future timelines as well, to go and really express themselves and to shine that inner light outward. Yeah. So I want to, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because what you just said reminded me back to when I was an art teacher to a school. Kids in this generation already different level of energy. They have this rebellious deep within them. I had two boys came up to me, this whole education system, excuse my language, that's bullshit. I'm like, what's your language? But good point. Reason that more. So they know that this isn't what resonate with them, and I guess we did too, but we just didn't have that voice. We just didn't have that courage. We just were taught to follow, right? But the kids these days, and of course the next generation to come, is going to feel this energy that what we are doing, way showers, paving frequency of compassion, they're going to feel that. And let us continue to channel our focus into nurturing energy. Many people have said that humanity have spent so much energy into fighting and killing each other for whose belief is right. Why do we continue to do that? I have to admit there's inner urge within me that, hey, that's wrong, that's right. But, it's an old energy that's just rising. And if we don't act upon it, it's going to dissipate. It's going to become less and less powerful. So let us channel our energy and our focus into something that serves the next generation, into something that we wish to manifest, rather than what is being exposed and what is dying. Leave it. It's going to crumble down. Leave it. Focus on our path. Focus on what's worth nurturing.
Oh, it's beautifully said. I love how you put that in the context of it's already dissolving. The old paradigm is dying. I mean, truth be told, it's died so many times that one of the things that I marvel at is how in the world people are still believing that this thing is, it's real. Like the cognitive dissonance, that's in there is it's pretty massive. And yet what that is, it's a virus. So if you want to get rid of a virus, it's not just identifying the host, it's don't give it the oxygen, don't give it the space. So when we fight it, we're actually feeding the very thing that we want to dissolve. So what you were saying, turn it around, focus on our path, focus on the celebration of one another, and focus on the cultivation of your own inner gifts to be shared outwardly. And we can't do this alone. So that therein lies again the power of unity consciousness, where we are all in some way, shape, or form supporting the other to succeed without others having to suffer as a result of our success.
Yes.
That's just one aspect of it.
Yes, I feel that the fear and the anger within needs ways to be channeled. And when we are not mindful, when we give power to what we don't resonate, and we keep mentioning that and just saying how bad it is, you're right, we're feeding power into it. And we're not being mindful that we are actually channeling our anger and fear into that system. And the more and more we do that, it grows. The key is, this is always come back to the inner child and creativity. The process of purging and releasing doesn't always have to be painful. It can be creative. It can be through dance. It can be through screaming, through laughing, through anything that engage the joy, that engage movement, that engage inner child. So allow the inner child to be in the process of releasing. Allow the inner child, the joy, to be in the process of transforming. And I feel that when we're doing that, we're building healthier sense of self. We're releasing guilt. We're releasing judgment. And we are truly creating a new paradigm.
That's exactly it. And that's the beauty of where we are right now. It used to be where there was this idea that so-called utopian future, the heaven on earth, was somewhere in the distant future. It's actually right. It's in the here and now, but it's in us. We are, again, talking about a virus. We can choose to be the carriers of a virus that destroys the essence of our inner spirit and creativity, or we can choose to be the carriers of an energy, which we always are, but we can choose to be the carriers of heaven on earth, first from within and then without. And so as we share it outwardly, we become demonstrations and reflections to one another that it is possible. You're possible. Anything's possible, because we are co-creating out of the quantum field, which we all are.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's just wrapped it up.
Well, in terms of wrapping up, I know we're going to be wrapping up this episode, because I could talk to you for days about all these. I would be remiss if I did not ask you about the two prints that I've got behind me. I want to talk a little about some of the creative energy and your connection to these frequencies and vibrations and these beings. Because when the light language print for Thoth, which again, as I mentioned earlier, I feel Sachet's energy, the divine feminine counterpart of Thoth, is very much woven into that. That's the first print that I purchased of yours. And I remember vividly when that print arrived and the impact that it began having on me in the first week that I put it up. And that was before I moved into the space I'm in now. And then for a brief time, there was my ex-girlfriend and I, and we were living together. And so I had purchased the Liren print. And then there were 3 other prints that I purchased for her, which she still has. And she has gotten so much powerful, positive energy out of them. So I'm saying this to those of you who are listening and watching this podcast episode. This is no joke. Like, I am a living witness and testament to the fact that these prints and the energy that is infused in them, they don't just look pretty on a wall. They're doing some very deep level encoded work within my being. They're helping me bring out and unleash my inspired voice. So how did you go about channeling the energy and the light language for these particular prints?
The feline His name is Excelsior. He was actually one of my first guides. And it was weird when he came out because I'm allergic to cat. I didn't know how to interact with cat. Now I can. Still allergic, but I can. But it was like, really? A cat? I was expecting more like a dog or something. And then things just started to open. Memory comes up, experiencing. It's just the parallel selves for me as a feline came back. And Excelsior always reminds me of the fluidity and the change, which is constant, the impermanent nature of creation. And he also always reminds me of that power of the ankh within the heart that connects with the head and allowing the perception to be renewal in every given moment. And that's why I place a scarab body on his head. And the scarab, to the ancient Kemet culture, speaks of the rebirth of the sun, speaks of the rebirth of the light. So let us be reminded to always renew our belief system, renew our identity, renew our perception. Keep this flow, keep this shifty, because for the heart, it's very spontaneous. For the heart, it's filled with excitement. And for the heart, it's going to be like, look, let us try that. Look, let us try that. And we are the master of creation, and we are remembering this. And for Thoth or Teuti, I love to call him brother. To me, he's like a friend. To me, he's such a sense of humor. He always tell me that I don't always listen to him. And he laughed. But Thoth is not. I've read the Immoral tablet, and it's just head spinning. And I think it's just that vibration got lost in translation, which is fine. But I've read the Kybalion, I've read Hermetica, and they are very small books. And these books has always been with me, inspired me on my path, on my journey. And Thoth is a messenger, and he is reflecting that. He is saying that, hey, you also are a scribe, are a messenger of your divinity. Tune into that. If you're curious about the Emerald tablet, the tablet is you. The sacredness is you. The mystery is in you. Unlock that in any shape or form. And there's so much I can go on about him. Do we have another hour?
We're going to have to devote an entire episode just to Tahuti and Seshet and what they bring into our present day reality. Because, I mean, as you were saying, the ancient kingdom of Kemet, and it goes back, I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of years. And oftentimes when people look at that, like, I'm not really into history. But our real ancient history is our present day reality. That is actually what we're activating. I'm so glad you talked about the Emerald tablets and the various forms of writing that have been attributed to Thoth and Seshet. There has been a lot of distortions of them. And it's difficult at times to discern, well, what is human propaganda and what is the true light? But as you get further down along the path of consciousness, the more we go inward, we actually, as you said, we are the Emerald tablets. And you can read through that. To me, it's very much akin to the Bible. You can read through it and you can pretty much go, there's high vibrational light and truth, and there's duality. And I think that's part of with anything that has been attributed to the beings of light that have come through this planet and have bestowed upon humanity the keys to unlocking our divinity. It's just an inner willingness to say yes. And once you begin saying yes to that inner divinity, once you say yes and embrace your inner child, then all of the mysteries of so-called life, all the mysteries of ancient Egypt and Lemuria and Atlantis, they begin to open up within, not from without. They begin opening up within us. And I'm so glad that you described both those, particularly with Excelsior and the Ankh and the Scarab, because when people are watching this, there's going to be, they've already seen the images, because we're going to put some images into this video. And if you are listening to the MP3, I highly encourage you to go to unleashyourinspiredvoice.com and go watch the actual video portion of this interview, or at the very least, go to the websites where you can see all of this beautiful artwork, and you can begin, and there's links in the bio section of the description of this episode. So this isn't just an episode to listen to, it's an episode to allow yourself to be unlocked visually and awaken more through the visual nature of these light language codes and what you have brought through. So Nalinee, I want to say thank you again for saying yes to being on the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast, but most importantly, for saying yes to being a conduit to all that comes through you. And you're very welcome. And I can only imagine the fortunate individuals who have said yes to work with you one-to-one, and those who've been fortunate enough to say yes to engage and purchase your Oracle deck as well as your artwork. Because again, this is not just a painting, this is an activation on the deepest levels. And for those of you who are willing and ready to go deeper within your own inner sanctum, to go inward and give yourself and give your inner child the space to come out and play, these are some of the tools that can help you do that if it is resonating and calling you. So where can people find out more about you and more about your work, and particularly on YouTube, where you share some profound and activating transmissions?
Oh, thank you. So my YouTube channel is Remembering Love and Light Language. That's the first title that I birthed into. And my website for my services and light language art, Oracle card deck, is called soulconnectionsnalinee.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Nalinee Diosara, or Facebook page, Remembering Love and Light Language. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Nalinee, thank you so much again for gracing this podcast with your light, your essence, and your presence. And I am looking forward to having more conversations with you. The next time that we get together, I would love to have you and Michael on to talk a bit about this journey that the two of you have been on as a conscious couple. Because I love the love and the light and the joy that the two of you exude just through your images and your videos. I have yet to see a picture of the two of you and not have a big smile on my face. I mean, it's just beautiful. So
it's the inner child within us.
Yes, and his inner child, your inner child show up so beautiful. That's the next conversation I'd love to have with you, because I think it would just be an honor to have you and Michael on the podcast to talk about your journey on a creative and a loving level, and just how it's all translated into the work that you do and the work that he does as well. So lots of love to both of you. Thank you again for sharing the light language transmissions that you have on this episode. And I want to say thank you to all of the beautiful souls who have joined Nalinee and myself on this journey here today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be a part of the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. And of course, as I say at the end of each one of the episodes, if you have an inspired message, a sacred movement, and a divine gift that you're here to share with the world, there's a good likelihood you're already doing it, but you may also be getting called to do it on a higher level, to be seen, heard, and felt in ways that you haven't allowed yourself to be as of yet. And so if you're wondering if it's time for you to do that, the answer is a resounding yes. Unleash your inspired voice, because the world needs to hear, feel, and see what you have to share now more than ever. So thank you for joining us on the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. From my grateful heart and inspired voice to yours, I look forward to having you join me on the next episode of Unleash Your Inspired Voice.
sihuna yuharanayo. Uya sahiyan Hamadia sahu. Masiana nanikia taranoyana kiana naniana siana horna naniano. Ay ay ay.
As you just experienced during Nalinee's amazing interview, light language and the sacred high vibrational energies that it carries can be woven into all areas of our life. Nalinee's sacred work vibrates on the soul level and reflects multidimensional facets of the souls she is called to work with. With her powerful yet gentle transmission and her ability to channel, she guides people from all over the world to a state of peace, empowerment, and oneness. Transmissions that she delivers transmit healing, clearing, DNA activations, and also soul remembrance. With that in mind, if you are called to order one of Nalinee's light language prints, commission a custom painting of your own, or work with her on a one-to-one level, please be sure to reach out to her. You can learn more about Nalinee at soulconnectionsnalinee.com, rememberingloveandlightlanguage.com, and on Facebook, type in Remembering Love and Light Language. To get access to bonus material from previous guests and episodes of the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast, as well as being notified of upcoming guests and special events, please be sure to visit unleashyourinspiredvoice.com and sign up today. I also want to give a shout out and offer my eternal gratitude for the divinely gifted team here at the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast. Thalassa Tam of Thalassa Designs, who is the amazingly gifted artist behind the branding of Unleash Your Inspired Voice. To learn more about how she can bring your vision to life through beautiful and heart-centered brand design, please visit thalassadesigns.com. And to my dear friend and brilliant podcast producer, Samantha Castro of Castro Creations, thank you for all you do. Without you, the Unleash Your Inspired Voice podcast would not exist as it does today. If you're seeking high-level editing, mixing, production, and support on your videos or your podcast, please be sure to visit scastrocreations.com. As always, thank you all for joining us on Unleash Your Inspired Voice and for playing an important part in giving birth to unity consciousness in our lifetime.